And here we go. So I have a note here. It says teeth, and then it says pimp story, and then law number 32. So I did not film yesterday. I know, it's crazy. But the reason was because at 4 a.m., well, actually before, probably midnight until 4 a.m. and beyond, the night before, I had excruciating pain in my teeth. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. I didn't want to. There's a scene from Lord of the Rings where he's like, I've pushed this off for far too long. And I don't know, there's no correlation between my diagnoses from going to the dentist and the 15 years or so of neglect of scheduling an appointment with them. There's no correlation whatsoever. And they told me, so I scheduled a dentist appointment, as I said, and they told me, all right, so your wisdom tooth needs to come out. It's like protruding down. I have a big cavity in the molar below it. He said I grind my teeth. So, not that created the cavity, but that was just another thing I thought I'd update you on. And again, I got interrupted. So they had to take out this guy. They are going to take out this. That's 2 teeth extractions. And then they were like, this one right here, there's a hole in like one of the, I don't know, when I was a little kid, I had these, a lot of my teeth, like there's silver things in it. So it's like a cap or, you know, a filling, I think. And there's a hole in it, so it's exposed to the elements, so that's adding to the, nerve pain and damage. So we need to do a root canal on that one, and then I think they said to seal it as well. So 2 teeth extractions next week on Wednesday, and then I have the root canal, I believe, the following week. And then they gave me these. So I have amoxicillin. It's like anti-anxiety medication. They gave me this when I was having my heart issues. I still have them, but when they were very severe in March and April. It doesn't really do anything. Amoxicillin. And then this, it's called diazepam. And I'm to take this on the day of the procedure. So next Wednesday, an hour before, I take one of these bad boys. And then here we have ibuprofen, 800 milligrams. And it was actually the only thing that subsided the pain when I went into the dentist office. They gave me, I think they called it Motrin, but I think it was the same thing. I think it had 800 milligrams of ibuprofen in it. But you know what I was thinking of on my drive today? I said, I can provide even more value within this very lecture, within this very law, by telling you a little something about ibuprofen, particularly if you're new to the gym. I learned this from Stan Efferding. And he said, the worst thing you can do when say you're a beginner in the gym and you feel pain, like your muscles are very sore. So what do we do when we, feel pain somewhere? We typically take an ibuprofen, an Advil. But what this is, it's anti-inflammatory. So why is that important? When you tear your muscle fibers down, it's like you're sending your body a big signal saying, hey, come repair me. When you take an anti-inflammatory medication, you're masking that pain signal. So what happens is, I said that right, that's English. Your muscle tissues, your fibers that you tore, they don't get the signal for recovery, so therefore they don't get recovery, they don't repair properly. So imagine this, you go and you tear your muscle fibers down, and then you mask the soreness, pain, because especially if you're new in the gym, what you're experiencing is quite normal. It's called DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. Can you say DOMS? Dora, no. It happens between 24 and 72 hours, depending on the individual. After you train that muscle group, you'll feel a very, very heavy soreness, particularly if you haven't trained that muscle in a very long time. And you feel it the worst with legs. Training legs the first time in several months, if not years. The way to eradicate that pain isn't by taking an anti-inflammatory that would just hinder your repair process and your healing, but it would just be to train that muscle group again. And then you literally the next day after you wake up from sleep, you won't feel, you'll never go through that pain again. But the reason people go through that pain over and over and it kind of turns them off to working out is because they go through the pain once and then they get DOMS, the delayed onset muscle soreness, and then they don't train that muscle group again, thinking that this is going to be the pain that they endure every time they train it. And so they just, the cycle repeats. So what happens when your muscle fibers tear and then no repair happens, and then you go and you train that muscle group again, the muscle fibers, they're already torn, they're not repaired properly. So it's the literal equivalent of spinning your wheels, as in you're going there to tear down muscle fiber tissue that's already broken down. You know what I'm saying? So you're just perpetually hindering your recovery process by doing that. And then the last thought that I had to tie this in is, I would say this is my 12th year. By this being my 12th year of training, real maturity in the gym is prioritizing rest. It really is. It's not what you're seeing on social media and all this bullshit of training 7 days a week and never taking a day off and you're so hardcore. No, that's beyond stupid. If you study people like Dorian Yates, he trained at his peak 3 or 4 times a week. That was it. If you study people like Tom Platz, they call him the quad father of bodybuilding, arguably the best legs in bodybuilding history. He trained heavy squats twice a month, so once every 2 weeks. Why? You're going into the gym not to build muscle, but to tear it down. And so the way that you build, the way that you grow, the way that you're losing fat, it's all in the recovery process. That's where your results and progression is derived. Does that make sense? So I was like, you know what? Let's give more value, and then turn some rain into some rainbows here with the fucking medication I'm on. All right, so that was that. And then really quick, I just want to backtrack fast from law number 31, and it's also a good thing to recap. So law number 31 was control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. And I said to preface that lecture, I really don't have too many good examples for this. Wait a second, Tariq, you have a perfect example for this, because you watched a really hilarious stand-up series by Dave Chappelle a long time ago. And he relays this story in his stand-up comedy episode. I think it's available on Netflix. And it was a book that he read called Pimp, the Story of My Life by Iceberg Slim. And in this story, he talks about how this pimp breaks down how to get the most miles, they call it, out of a hoe. So how to get the most out of them, like a good cattle, you know what I'm saying? How many tricks can they run on their bottom hoe, right? And one of good Iceberg Slim's hoes was at the end of her line. Like she was losing in her head. And as an experienced and seasoned pimp, he knows when the vehicle is about when the engine's about to die. And so she's like, Daddy, I can't do this no more. And then Iceberg Slim is like, hold on, ho. He's like, I got one more job for you. You do this one more job, and then you're done. You're out. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. He's like, I just need you to go hook up with this guy in this hotel, and that's it. So she goes into this hotel, and then she starts hooking up with this guy, and then the guy has a heart attack, and then he dies. And then she's freaking out. She's like, oh my God. And then the pimp comes in. He's like, what happened? You killed this guy? And then she's like, I don't know what happened. We were just, and then he's dead. Oh, I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. And then he's like, oh my gosh, you were in so much trouble. Okay, I'll take care of it. You get out of here. But now from our previous arrangement, I'm going to need you to work with me a little longer to, until this rolls over. And she was like, okay, anything, thank you so much. And then, so she goes on her way, and then he's like, he'll take care of it. And then when she leaves, the guy gets back up. He didn't have a heart attack. He was fine. I think he was medicated on something that put his heart rate extremely, extremely low. That guy was one of the pimp's friends, and that's the end of the story. So it was all a game. It all enacted the law of control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. As in his bottom hoe, thinking that she was going to get out of the game. And then Iceberg Slim said, I don't think so. I'm going to get way more miles out of you by coming up and fabricating this little scheme to where if you notice at the end of the story, you can actually get your victim to be so grateful for your manipulation. Toxic motherfuckers do this all the time. They'll manipulate a person so well that they'll actually get their victim apologizing to them, to the one doing the abuse on them, to the one employing the manipulation on them. And this hoe was a perfect example of that, in like tears of joy and gratitude for the illusion that he's going to get her out of trouble. Completely, it was a made-up set. Now, why is that important? In this stand-up series by Dave Chappelle, he ends it with a little talk to the audience. And it's very, very, it's going to be interesting to see how this video, what happens in the future. You know, if Tark Houks shots himself, if you've ever seen any of the South Park episodes. It would be a shame if, you know, you shot yourself. But he talks about how at the height of the Dave Chappelle show, he was offered $60 million by a company, right? What he was offered, that he didn't say this vocally, he was offered the opportunity to sell his soul. And instead of it, imagine this, and he says this over and over on different talk shows, and then he utilizes this exact story of, you know, a scheme about to be implored on somebody who is about to have his soul sold, and then just like the hoe in the story, you are indebted to this person who's helping you, who's saving you, who's sponsoring you, who's giving you this, you know, this money, right? He turned down $60 million when the Dave Chappelle show was at the height of its popularity, and he moved to Africa for 10 years. Why? Right? Oh, because they were offering me a contract to sell my soul, to be at the whim and at the use and at them, subject to them, right? And he said, go fuck yourself. Bounced. Okay? It's very important, because when you look at anything in pop culture and social media, and if you just open your eyes and do anything that we've talked about in this university, it is as clear as day the celebrities who have made those deals, who they were given a price and then they sold their soul. How can you verify that they sold their soul? It's because they'll be promoting shit that is very, very questionable. Mr. Beast is a perfect example. The need for him to be promoting trans on his very, very popular YouTube channel. That's weird. It's weird that you feel the necessity to do that. Probably evident of somebody who sold their soul. I saw an interview with, it was Kelly Clarkson and that one comedian, Kevin Hart, and then Kelly, in her beautiful naivety, she was like, I've had people come and offer me money to do strange things, and then he's like, shh, no, and it's all on camera. He's like, what they did was they're trying to get you to sell your soul, and you didn't, but don't talk about it. Don't advertise it. Don't let everybody know exactly what we're doing. So Tark Houks would never take his own life. He would never do any of this. So, you know, let's make that very clear in what's to come in the future by speaking the fucking truth. So that was my recap. I just wanted to give you the update with my teeth. They're going to extract 2 of them. The top wisdom tooth, which is very telling that maybe they'll take this wisdom tooth out too, which I'd rather they did not. I was hoping to make it to 30 with all my teeth intact, but beggars can't be choosers, my lord. So, and then we talked about selling your soul, Dave Chappelle. That was law number 31. Recap with the pimp, Iceberg Slim. And now, wouldn't you believe it, we're on law number 32. That was a pretty good 12-minute recap, 12 and a half. Here we go. Play to people's fantasies. Play to people's fantasies. So, quote from the law. Welcome. Tark Houks here, professor. Let's continue class. By then, however, people were easy to deceive. They wanted to believe. And once he had created an aura like this, no one noticed his simple deceptions. And my comment was snake, serpent, learned state. So this law discusses play to people's fantasies. It's much better to lie to people, to manipulate them, to create, to sell them on a bill of goods, snake oil, rather than tell them the truth. Nobody wants the guy who's going to tell them, hey, to become successful, you have to be consistent and put in hard work. They don't want that. What they want was the last thing that I wrote, one of the last things that I wrote here, that, one of the most popular fitness videos on YouTube is how to get abs in 2 weeks. When I typed that in several years ago, not for research on my own purposes, I typed in like fitness or something on YouTube. I was curious what the top viewed video was. And wouldn't you believe it, it was some bullshit trying to sell you the idea that you could get abdominals in 2 fucking weeks of work. And the millions of views, what is that reflective of? Millions of people looking for the instant gratification, looking to get out of the fucking work, looking to buy a lie. But that bullshit sells to fucking idiots and cowards and weak people that are just looking for where I can cut corners, where I can shortchange, what I can do, what money I can pay, what fantasy I can be sold, because I want to believe that it's more than, it has to be something other than hard work. It has to be something that is, out of my control. Because if it was hard work, there's no way it could just be hard work, because that means I would have full control over that. And I don't have that body. So therefore, it has to be something that's outside of myself. And there's a quote from it, so it's so beautiful. I'll skip and I'll say it. People rarely believe that their problems arise from their own misdeeds and stupidity. Someone or something out there is to blame. The other, the world, the gods, and this is the important part. And so salvation comes from the outside as well. How convenient. How convenient that my problem isn't me, it's somewhere out there, and so my solution, therefore, couldn't be me, can't be me. It has to be something out there. I love that so much. And 3 things came to my mind before I circle back. Number 1 was, if you think about control, if you think about playing to people's fantasies, I want you to think of manipulation. The first place that came to mind after I read that, salvation comes from the outside as well, it ties in with the word salvation, was this book. This book. Let's talk shit on Christianity for a moment. When the Bible was originally enacted, it was written in Latin, not the Hebrew. I'm talking about when Renaissance era, prior to then. Latin. That means in order to gain access to the kingdom of heaven, in order to gain access to God, the illiterate of Latin had to use this third party. They had to go through the church. That was their requirement, because only the literate of Latin could then translate this good book, could give them God. Interesting. The next thing I had was law. You don't hire an attorney because they're a wizard, right? But because you need them. Because you are illiterate when it comes to the interpretation of the law. So you need an attorney. So that's why we go to the church. We don't know Latin. We need to go to the church who knows Latin. The last one was, you don't do your own taxes. I mean, I do my own through TurboTax. But you hire an accountant because you don't know accounting. Do you understand? So the price of ignorance is freedom. I'll say that again. The price of ignorance is freedom. That's the price that you're paying. You forfeit your freedom to think for yourself, period. To live free with your ignorance, with your naivety, with your stupidity, okay? Salvation comes from the outside as well. The key to God, the key to you, having a fair and judicial trial, the key to you, abiding by the IRS law codes. But I thought those were very, very important. Why? Because they've set up the game like this. And it's so important for you to see it for what it is. That they don't know something that you don't. They're not smarter than you. And politicians do this bullshit all the time, where they'll use big words to try to confuse you. I was trained to do that when I worked as a personal trainer. Use muscular vernacular that they don't understand so that the client thinks, oh, I have to hire you. I need you as my coach because there's no way I could figure this out and do this on my own. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit to control the sheep, to control the masses, to take their money. Where do you think your money went to these congregations, right? Oh, that's a nice new car. Good bishop. And so it's just, I want you to think about this. I want you to think for yourself. That's the whole premise of Rat Life University, Rat Life and Targ Hawks. We use our heads, right? We see bullshit, we call it out, right? We don't take things just at face value for what it is. I used to play a video game, World of Warcraft, where my teammates, after we would lose, because I'm so big on the iteration, they would say, that's just how it goes. That's just the way it is. And I fucking hated that. Why? Because we learned this in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. When you say something as fucking stupid as that's just the way it is, your mind doesn't even go to work to try to find a solution because you've forfeited that. By you saying, oh, there's nothing I can do about it, your brain will substantiate that claim. It'll agree with you. You'll have confirmation bias, enact it. Oh, there is nothing I can do about that, so I won't. So I won't even try. Why waste the energy if by the equation that you've typed in, the formula you've given me, right, the parameters you've allowed me to work with, it's impossible. So to what end, right? So the whole idea is just, it's so fascinating how easily people can be manipulated, how easily you can control the masses, how easily you can take people's money by just lying, by just selling them a fucking fantasy. But this is the important part. This is how I tie it back into the first quote that I said. However, people were easy to deceive. They wanted to believe. They wanted to believe. As in, your victim is already, the work is already halfway done. People, and I put serpent's snake, and then when we think about the hoe from Iceberg Slim, She wanted to believe that her pimp had her best interest at heart, that he was her savior. She wanted to believe that. So the deception was very easy. There was no work involved. People in toxic, manipulative, abusive relationships, when the guy has, or you can interchange them, it's not that women don't do abuse, but majority of romantic relationships, the physical abuse or sexual abuse or verbal abuse, the manipulation is typically from a male. They can do 9 atrocities, right? And 1 nicety. And then the woman, in this, from what I'm describing, as I said, it's skewed towards men doing the manipulation and abuse. They enact this. They want to believe that, no, that good guy is still there. No, the guy that got me flowers and, complimented me and this, no, that guy's still there. I can get through to that guy. I can reach him. Not the guy who beats the shit out of me. No. That's not really him. And what do? They'll justify and rationalize their behavior, right? The victim doing that. The victim apologizing for them, shortening, dismissing, diminishing their bad behavior. Oh, he was just having a bad day. Oh, he's just angry. Oh, that's not really him. Maybe it was my fault that I did this. The victim of the abuse and the manipulation and the sexual assault. So, for that reason, they're the easiest to deceive and manipulate because they want to believe, right? They're able to manipulate them by them playing on the hope that surely you're not this piece of shit. This battery's gonna die. 1 sec. Does that make sense? And then I want to backtrack really quick to Christianity. I said, let me talk shit on Christianity. I have nothing against Christianity. I have everything against manipulation, against hypocrisy, and against people blindly following things. And that is omnipresent within such organizations. So whenever you have the opportunity, like I do, to speak the truth and to call out bullshit and deception, I feel like those who have the ability to also have the responsibility to. And what does it do? It's not going to end the fucking religion. It's going to get people to think for themselves. And that's the whole goal of this university. For you to think for yourself. For you to be given a belief and then question it. Is this what I believe? Why do I believe this? Etc., etc., etc. Do you see? Thinking for yourself. Perspicacity. The ability to perceive. All of these good things. Does that make sense? Do you understand now how playing to people's fantasies, their need and want and desire to believe, is by far the easiest way to manipulate them, the easiest way to deceive them, the easiest way to get your victim to be grateful for you from their abuse? And then the one example that I had, or the first thing that came to mind, was my snake serpent. So I said that it's not gender specific. You can be a serpent fuck like my snake superior and implore just this. People were easy to deceive. They wanted to believe. And once he had created an aura like this, no one noticed his simple deceptions. So my serpent was, or is currently, a professional at creating a learned state of helplessness, where the abuse that she would do is just a little thing over time. It's a little disrespect here. It's a little gaslighting here. It's a little emotional projection here. It's very, very slow. Think of it like you're the frog in boiling water. She doesn't cook you immediately. She slowly cooks you over time. And then she puts all of the managerial people in this checkmate position where she, just like with me, threatens their job security. So if you dare to speak the truth or call this abusive dumb bitch out on all of her behavior, then she'll give you all of these threats and these letters of warning that if you continue to call out the abuse, you're threatened with termination of your employment. So imagine that. Imagine you've worked your entire career in your position of, a manager, good successful slave, and you're an administrator, and you're at this level, and this one serpent can literally hold your career hostage. And that's the exact state that she has all of these cowards in, who now are in a perpetual state of fear to not speak the truth against this one bully, this one piece of shit. So she's able to do that. And how she achieved that was by creating a learned state of helplessness over time. And so now the deception is very easy for her. However, what this law doesn't talk about is what happens when one person has the courage to speak the truth, to call out the bully, to call out the serpent snake, right? Put their fucking head on a pike for all to see. Do you understand? Courage is contagious just as much as cowardice is. And the way that you call something out is you catch yourself, you break the fucking pattern. And people live in perpetual, I was in this abusive relationship for 18 fucking months because I kept forgetting. I would forget when they would do this abuse because they were so good at getting you to forgive and forget them by giving you gifts, by doing that one nicety and then 9 abuses and emotional projections and gaslighting events, you know, until you have to say enough, right? Until you say, no, go fuck yourself. I'm not going to forget. I'm not going to forget what you did, right? And then you play this petty game because she's a petty fucking serpent snake where they won't ever apologize for behavior. And I made the mistake of forgiving and forgetting when she directly lied to me. And then once you say laugh at something that she'll say, or it's as if all of this never happened and she'll never go back and address this or apologize for this. But when I set the precedent that no, I'm never gonna forget, that was when the table turned. And then it's as if I'm the cancer within the organization from her horribly unhealthy lens, because all I am is a light or a mirror, is a better analogy, exposing all of her deception and all of her darkness, and all of her abuse and all of her manipulation, because every time she would see me, it was a reminder of what she did. Do you understand? And that's the beauty about aligning with God, not an religious institution, but aligning with God, aligning with truth, right? Walking the path to be Christ-like is you stand on honor and integrity and character, and that's exactly who I am. That's exactly what I align with. So I expose the fuck out of these serpent snakes, and it's fantastic. And you'll find that regardless of their number, regardless of how overwhelming or defeating you feel, or outnumbered, I guess was what I was trying to say, there's a good quote, I've quoted this many times in many lectures, that if he stand with us, I'm pointing to the good book, who can stand against us? Do you know what I'm saying? There's no world where all the demons win. There's just good and God always beat these motherfuckers. So all you have to do is stand at that vanguard of truth. Okay. And then you'll be very, very surprised. And this is why I say it's important for you to let go of the how. What angels, what spirits, what guides fight for you and beside you and are on your team. There are people watching these videos that I don't even know about, but who are in complete support of me, but they never tell me, right? But they resonate with what I'm saying because all I'm saying is the fucking truth. To continue. So I hope that makes sense regarding oh, I pointed over there because that's where I put it, but the book was over here. Manipulation, right? Deception, how people enact this law of playing to people's fantasies, right? Their need to believe, they take advantage of that. The need to believe that, no, you're not a serpent fuck. Because the rhetoric and the narrative of all this classified stuff would be, is it just me? Is it in my head? That's how you get your victim from gaslighting. You confuse the fuck out of them by you doing all of the abuse, and then you tell them that they're doing the abuse or the bad behavior or the toxicity. And so it's very confusing, and you get them in their head, second guessing, hesitating, because they're speaking to it in a place of authority with such conviction. It's the abusive, manipulative fuck. Do you understand? Okay. To continue. To gain power, you must be a source of pleasure for those around you. And pleasure comes from playing to people's fantasies. Lying. Never promise a gradual improvement through hard work. And this is underlined. So this is what you should not do according to this law if you want to implore this bullshit. Never promise a gradual improvement through hard work. Yeah, what a fucking terrible idea that would be. The idea that, you know, proponing the truth. Being a proponent of the truth. Rather, promise the moon, the great and sudden transformation, the pot of gold. 2 examples I had were the 60 plus million at the time, it probably has way more, viewed video of get abs in 2 weeks, how to get abs in 2 weeks, and then meme coin millionaires. Those are the 2 examples I have for, it's reflective of the society we live in currently from the generational cycle. So it goes strong men, well, let's start with hard. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. You're seeing the weakest motherfuckers in your entire lifetime are the men, the very, very feminine men, omnipresent today, right? That is the result of a very comfortable, a very easy, a very privileged life up until this point, where they've had no war, they've had no struggle, they've had no fucking depressions, they've had no hardship, right? Oh, the teenager, no, I survived the 2008, housing market crash. Motherfucker, you were in middle school not doing anything. You didn't survive anything. I survived COVID. You know what I'm saying? And so you see these people who, they're so, and I've said this thousands of times, they're so weak not just physically weak, which they are. They're emotionally brittle. They have no mettle, M-E-T-T-L-E, right? They cave at, they don't have any backbone. They cave at the first sign of struggle. They quit every time. It takes nothing to be a made man. It takes nothing to be than the average, because everyone is such a pussy, or they quit so easily, or they don't try. Nobody puts an effort. You can apply that to the dating context. Why put an effort when I could just go on to the next, on to the next, on to the next? It's all instant gratification. It's all, how do I become a meme coin fucking millionaire? It's all, how do I get abs in 2 weeks? The millions of views that these are getting, like I said before, it's just reflective of the weak mindset of people who don't want to do the work, who want to get out of the work. How can I get out of the work? Because I've been conditioned that to have everything handed to me. Instant gratification. If I want to get laid, dating app, Tinder, swipe, right? If I want food, I don't have to go anywhere. I can just Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats. It's bred a generation of lazy fucks and stupidity and just garbage and sloth and lazy and neglect and people who don't fucking appreciate what's right in front of them, right? No gratitude, because they've been given everything on a fucking silver platter, handed everything their entire life. And you see this in the kids these days, man. It's so, and I shared this in a previous lecture. It's so evident when I see I was gonna say see you next Tuesday, when I see a little prick who's never been told no, right? Who never, was raised on fucking food stamps, or, the, half off lunch or free lunch, when you go to school, like never was beat. And when I say beat, not just, I mean, my family was abused, but not disciplined in the slightest. Never, you could tell when someone's never been fucking hit with a belt. Like, it's so easy to discern. You know what I mean? And I've shared that with coworkers. It's like, I'm not saying you have to beat your kids, but kinda. Like, you need discipline. Do you know what I'm saying? And you see this with guys today. Don't worry about women. Men who don't have any fucking discipline. They don't have any work ethic. They don't know what they have no clue what perseverance or will is, right? They're the weakest, most brittlest pussies, right? Cowards, cucks. And those are omnipresent in the fucking leadership within the rat life. All these pussies who are afraid to speak the truth, who are afraid to stand up against atrocity and abuse and manipulation, right? Who turn the blind eye and enact one of the previous laws of having the imploring of their cat's paw. So a serpent snake doing their abuse for them while they're completely aware of it. And that's what leaders are today. No, I'm not going to protect and provide for my team, right? The very reason that I'm in this position of authority and leadership, right? As a leader, as a leader, right? Looking out for my own fucking team, that should be my only prerogative. No, I'm going to take all of the reward, right? The title, made up title, the corner office, the higher salary, while my good slaves get abused the fuck out of, right? And I'll be able to sleep nicely. But don't worry, I go to church on Sundays. It's all bullshit. It's all complete garbage. So I hope any of that makes sense. I know I was hot there. It's a very hot rant, but it's because we live in a world of just weak motherfuckers from that success cycle. And you can see it from the bottom to the top. You see it from the child to the weak coward that's a leader within an organization. And I know countless within the school district system. And that's the great irony, is I'm the one fucking actually imploring real education and real virtues and tenets and ideologies, such as character, such as integrity, such as you not being a snake serpent piece of shit, playing to people's fantasies so you can manipulate and abuse the fuck out of them. No, the reason that we're doing this 48 Laws of Power is so you can see all this manipulation when it's happening in real time, equip yourself to combat it, and then call a snake motherfucker out where they stand. So again, proverbially, their head gets placed on a fucking pike. Okay, to continue. So hopefully you're not one of those people. Hopefully you're not YouTubing, oh, how do I get, abs in fucking 2 weeks when you haven't gone to the gym in 10 fucking years, right? Hopefully that's not you. Hopefully you're not looking at how can I become a meme coin millionaire, right? Do the work. There's a interview with Kobe Bryant where he's like, it's just 20 years of literal micro improvements. Just saying, how can I conquer the day, the 24 hours? How can I improve from today to tomorrow? He said, if you do that over the course of 20 years, what do you got? Quote from Greg Plitt. If you do that over and over and over, the gap between first and second is miles, right? You will shit on these kids. That's why it takes nothing to be a made man, to be other, right? To be alpha. It's because all of these pussies are everywhere. And all of these weak motherfuckers are everywhere. No one wants to try. No one does anything that requires... No one can stick to anything for a period of time. That's why even today having a nice physique is like a status symbol. Because no one can stick to a transformation for fucking... You can't diet consistently for 4 months? For 6 months? Like, it's insanity. You don't have the ability to have 4 months of delayed gratification. Like, that's a challenge for you. Like, you can't stick to one thing for 4 months. I would look in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? I would really reevaluate my fucking life, because that's insanity. If you can't stick to something for 4 fucking months, it's wild. But who's at fault, right? It's not the kid, dude. It's the parent. Because they thought they were doing them a favor by never disciplining this arrogant runt. And it's very fortunate that we included this book in the university, The Ultimate Gift, because it describes just that. There's a kid in here who's this arrogant, entitled piece of shit, something that you see amongst fucking teenagers everywhere today. And he goes through all of this work to learn actual ideologies, such as work ethic, such as character, such as your word meaning something, such as you showing up on time, eye contact, firm handshake, right? Showing up correct, presenting yourself very sharply, like things that aren't taught to the modern boy with a 40+% divorce rate and just all these single mothers. And I'm not saying you can't be a badass mother and raise a badass son. That's not what I'm saying. But we emulate. That's how we learn, right? And so you look for a masculine role model and leader to emulate, to become like that guy. And if you don't have that, you're not going to, unless you're the kind of person like me, very high intellect, and constantly looking for truth, then you'll seek out those male role models. Like I sought out, I was gifted, guided, you could say, by God to a Zisha version that, sparked my transformation journey, but then gravitated towards a Greg Plitt. And then in my later adolescence, or young adult, gravitated towards an Andrew Tate. And that's like the extreme. That's, hyper masculine, but, or in terms of showmanship. But again, if you have perspicacity, you'd understand why he speaks the way that he does, versus that's not how he speaks behind closed doors when he's talking with his friends. It's all this, I was going to say a brash, like just over the top for attention, for views, for you to click on a video, for him to get you triggered emotionally. So then you watch more of his videos. So then you make a reply video. And so that increases his popularity. He's making money off of you. That's all. It's his business. Do you understand? So if you use your fucking head and if you open your eyes, then I don't even have to explain things like this book, because you'll just be able to see it when you go outside. You'll be able to see the kid who's so arrogant and so entitled and doesn't have a shred of humility. So I encourage everybody in this university to not walk down that path, man. To, when your kid is being a piece of shit, you take off the fucking belt. You know what I'm saying? Smack the shit out of them, and then maybe they won't repeat the behavior. It took my mom one time to put a bar of soap in my mouth for me to not ever use profanity again in front of her when I was a kid. Sometimes I use it today, but it's the most disrespectful thing. And I see it with my little sister, and I hate when she does it, to use profanity in front of my mom. But all it takes is putting a bar of soap in a kid's mouth one time for them to say, hey, this kind of sucks. I don't ever want to do this again. So maybe I'll, clean up my mouth. That's how you condition behavior. But no, a kid is going to throw a tantrum. Let me give you an iPad. I'm done. We're moving on. It's wild, this clown world. Okay. The person who can spin a fantasy out of an oppressive reality has access to untold power. Search for the fantasy that will take hold of the masses. No. Be like Kobe Bryant, dude. Look for those micro improvements over the span of 20 years so you become that living legend, right? Don't be a snake, weasel, rat. Number one, playing on people's fantasies. But number two, looking for the quick fix, the easy way out of the work. It's on you. Oh no, I'm going to blame somebody else. There's no way it could be my fault. No way my 10 years of eating like a piece of fat shit garbage, never going to the gym, never taking care of myself. Surely that's not my fault. It's society's. So therefore, society also has my salvation. That's a slave mind. That's a victim mind. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Okay. So search for the fantasy that will take hold of the masses. I want to repeat that. Search for the fantasy. I'm tying this in not from God, from institutions, right, that control masses. Search for the fantasy that will take hold of the masses, right? This isn't original. I saw a great video, and I know I'm walking a tightrope with God here, but he knows what I'm doing, and he wouldn't have given me this voice, this courage, this platform if I wasn't aligned with him. And in regards to controlling the masses and this not being an original story, the book of the Bible I saw, it was like 15 different faiths and religious practices that predated Christianity, all shared everything that happens in this book. It's not an original story. It's not original anything by any means. It's stories that have been handed down over thousands of generations prior. And all of these things have been implored as ways to what? Control mass population. To control people. To get you, I need to seek this church because I'm illiterate in Latin. I need to pay this congregation so that I have access to God and get into heaven. What is that called? Bullshit. Bullshit. That's why I quoted that story the other day from Robin Hood that said, I like a quiet church when I pray, Father. So does that make sense? Where you see through bullshit, you see through manipulation, you see through the guise of big institutions, big corporations. The church is a fucking bank. Like, there's a statistic I learned from Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, that I have, or that I already showed you. I don't know where, oh, it's right here. He says, the only place that owns more real estate than McDonald's is the Catholic Church. You know, it's a business. they're the only institution that owns more real estate than McDonald's, or it's one of the two. They're either first or second. McDonald's is the highest, only second to the Catholic Church, or vice versa. But understand that. Understand that these big corporations, it's money, it's business. It's getting you to pay and give your money to this, to this, to this. It's not about tithing. It's not about you and your relationship with God. It's about controlling the masses. It's about playing to people's fantasies. It's all manipulation. Food for thought, though. Food for thought. Sell riches to the poor, Adonis bodies to the fat, brilliance to the stupid. That was my comment on that. So the person who can spin a fantasy out of oppressive reality has access to untold power. How do you get, people buying lottery tickets? And I'll put a caveat. I bought one for the first time in my entire life. And this is actually a cool story to share. I had a dream that someone gave me a phone number. And so it might be a prophecy, like it might have been an angel coming to me in my dream. So that was the first thing that I thought. I literally had to ask the guy at Walmart how to fucking use one of these present machines, because that's what gambling, lottery, all this shit is. It's a literal tax on the poor. That's all it is. It's a free tax on poor people. But that's how you get them to buy and spend money and go into debt, buying all this garbage, is they sell you on the vacation. They sell you on riches and glory and, your name to live through the ages. That's what they sell to poor people. And then what do you sell to fat people is you can get the Adonis body, the six pack in 2 weeks, right? It's all about what? The person who can spin a fantasy, the person who can play to people's fantasies out of an oppressive reality. So as in you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, oh, no, it couldn't be hard work. It couldn't be actually doing work and being consistent. It couldn't be my fault for the state that I'm in, for the finances that I have, for the physique that I currently embody. Could not be my fault. My life couldn't be the sum total of all my decisions to date. No way that's a possibility. And then I put brilliance to the stupid. Does any of that make sense? It better. Next, because we're moving on regardless. But that's how they make money, is you sell them the lie, you sell them the fantasy, because why? What? They want to believe. They're already pre-sold. They're already pre-sold to get out of the work. So you don't have to sell them. We learned that, and I I keep saying this isn't going to be a book in the university, but I reference it quite a lot. Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort, where he puts those prospects in the easiest category, the ones who are already sold on your product. So if you're selling snake oil and people are interested in buying snake oil, they're actually looking to buy a lie because they want to believe it, you know, they're already sold. You don't have to do any work. You don't have to do a follow-up. You don't have to try hard to sell them. He said those are your open and shut, your easiest prospects, your easiest sales. So know who you are in the category. Are you one of those cows looking for the Adonis physique in 2 weeks? Are you one of these peasants looking for, you know, your ticket out of the rat life? You know, are you someone who's constantly looking to get out of the work? Do you understand? There's no way to get out of it. You just gotta shut the hell up, bite your tongue. No, it's you bite something. Suck it up and you just do it, right? You dust off your shoes. I'm pulling at the hay strings here, but you just shut the hell up and you get to work. Is essentially what the saying is. So we're not going to cut it, or we're gonna let it ride. Okay. Remember, the key to fantasy is distance. Yeah, because if you were too close, you'd see through all the bullshit. So we got to give you arm's distance, arm's reach. The key to fantasy is distance. The distant has allure and promise, and I love this so much. That's why I wrote it. Seems simple and ungraspable. It is the mirage in the distance, that part. It is the mirage in the distance. So the key to fantasy is distance. The distance has allure and promise. It's the mirage in the distance, withdrawing as the sucker approaches. And the first thing that I thought of was your 401k, stocks, and I put etc. I said, who are you actually making rich? I learned this from Grant Cardone. And he said, do you know one thing that all rich people don't have is a 401k? And he said, do you know who's making money when you have a 401k or you have these mutual funds that have all these fees that if you read this book, Tony Robbins, Money Master of the Game, he does the math for you. And when you have it's like a 1, 2, 3% service charge, a fee for administration and whatever bullshit that they put for the ones who are handling your finances when it comes to your 401k. He said that equates down the road to, it compounds like it's millions of dollars. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're losing towards these made up fees. And I learned from Alex Hormozy, just a quick way to scam people. If you do gym memberships and you do a recurring theme, you can just do an annual maintenance fee. It's just an easy way to get your clients to pay you a one-time fee for nothing. 24 Hour Fitness does that. So each year they charge you, I think it's like $49, and a lot of gyms do that. So you pay your monthly, and then maybe you pay like a sign-on fee, and maybe their promotion is we don't have a sign-on fee. And then we have an annual fee that you have to pay for annual maintenance. It's just made up. It's just to take your money. So yeah. And then, so he said in that, who gets rich from the 401k? It's not you. It's Vanguard, it's BlackRock, it's State Street. It's the people that you're putting your money into. They're the ones getting rich, dummy. And the one other thing that I thought was in regards to stocks, there's a literal scene in this, not to backtrack from Jordan Belfort, Way of the Wolf, in Wolf of Wall Street, where he's just like, well, wouldn't it be mutually advantageous for the client to make money and us? He's like, fuck the clients. He said, your whole goal is to keep them on the wheel. They think they're getting, I think he said like shit rich or dirt rich. And he said, and they are on paper, but they're like gambling addicts. So they'll just continue to give you money and you get a great idea. Why don't we reinvest these earnings in a new stock? And then you're making cold hard cash, motherfucker. But that makes sense, right? So you get sold on you getting rich, you getting out of the rat life. That's all it is. Let me sell you on the vacation of you being a slave for 60 years, that's tying into your 401k, so that you can be free for 5, for 6, right? The retirement age, this was an old statistic, I know people live longer now, but average retiring age was 65, and average death rate at the time was 72. So you work for 40 years as a good slave, if not more, 40 to 60. No, you don't start at 5. 40 to 50 years as a good slave, so you can be free for 5 to 6 years. And you see how quickly people age when they're no longer using cognitive ability. And you realize, wow, I was just a cattle. I wasn't making myself rich. I was making somebody else rich for 40 years. How do you make yourself rich? You do the micro improvements, right? You invest in the greatest asset you will ever invest in, yourself. Okay, to finish, I hope that makes sense. Ask yourself, who are you actually making rich? Who are you actually making rich being a rat in the rat life, right? I learned this when I was a personal trainer. I was like, wait a second. You know that kid from the Nestle Crunch commercial? Is this the land of make-believe? I was making $5 on my commissions for packages, training sessions that I sold for $85. And I said, that's weird. It was like $10.50 an hour. And because the way that they would compensate to pay me minimum wage was that it would be that plus my commission. And so I'm making $15.50, so we'll say $15 for easy math. But I sold an $85 package, or for the day training session, and then I signed them for $5,000, and I made $5? Like, what the fuck? And so then I became a personal trainer, and I'll be honest, I kind of scabbed. And what scabbing is when you don't pay a gym rent. I'm kind of, this is all made up. I didn't actually do this. Could you say what you just said? Just the way you did. And he's wearing a mic. It's all from this movie. It's a really good movie if you haven't seen it. So I would train clients in 24-Hour Fitness or other gyms, and I would pocket 100% of the sale. So if I trained them for $70 a session, I would keep $70. So all you had to do was do the marketing through your own Instagram, and then you could be your own boss. And then you could pocket 100%, not the fucking breadcrumbs. Not, oh, I'm going to sell you for $85, and then I get a $5 commission. Where's that $80 going? Oh, it's going to them at the top. You're making them rich by being their slave, right? But the way the game is set up is they use fear. Oh, if you pursue entrepreneurship, that's risky. You better stay a good slave for 40 years, your entire life. That's safe, right? It's safe to be a good rat, a good slave. It's very risky, scary. Oh, what could happen? Freedom could fucking happen. That's what could happen if you choose to bet on yourself. Oh, wait a second, I go to the job to learn all the things that I need to learn, right? I went into the personal training, I learned everything I needed to learn about sales when it comes to fitness, when it comes to overcoming objections, when it comes to retention, when it comes to generating referrals, when it comes to gathering leads, when it comes to prospecting, when it comes to anything related to the client and how to make them a raving fan, a raving customer, right? And then I did the same thing within the rat life within education. I went in and I learned everything I need to know about how the courtiership works, about how the rat life works. And then you lose all sense of imposter syndrome. These aren't fucking leaders. These aren't people that have a prerogative to provide education. These are snake serpent motherfuckers, right? So you realize that, wait a second, I could do this. I could make my own, right? I could live my life on my own terms. I could live free. I could live a life of perpetual freedom forever. You break through the illusion, dude, that these guys know something that you don't, right? That I'm illiterate in some way. Fuck no. I don't need to go to the show. I said, this is all made up. It's all made up. The titles, the chain of command, the senior, it's all made up by these people. And what keeps the house of cards is the belief that it's not made up from the lower peasants, from the commoner, from the slaves in there that think, I need this, that I need to be here, that I need you. No. You don't need them. They need you way more than that you need them, and they'll never tell you. They'll never tell you. So once you realize that, that's when you're free. Once you realize that the system needs the slaves don't need the system. Got it? The slaves, let me put a caveat on that, because not the system like, getting medicine and going to, the grocery store systems. The slave doesn't need the system in place that's there to enslave you. That's the huge caveat. The slave, Tarkow's former slave, doesn't need to be in the rat life. He can live a life of freedom forever. To finish, we're almost done. Truth is cold. A lie is more palatable. The more detested person in the world is the one who always tells the truth. That was Who Never Romances. I'm saying words. It was a quote from it. I didn't miss any words. I found it more interesting and profitable to romance than to tell the truth. So it's by they call him like the Yellow Kid. I think he was an escape artist. He was a weasel rat. He was a con artist. And he put that. I found it more interesting and profitable to romance than to tell the truth. Why? Because when you lie to motherfuckers and you put clickbait on your videos, yeah, you get the 60 million plus views, man. Get abs in 2 weeks, right? That's bullshit. You're selling them snake oil, you snake oil salesman fuck. I would rather tell the truth. That's less palatable, but that's doing you the actual favor, right? You do no one any favors. You do them the biggest disservice by lying to them, you snake fuck who has a platform to reach people, right? Those are people who sell their soul. Right? So it's going to be boring when you speak the ideas that, hey, it's on you. Hey, it's on you. Hey, it's your fault. But Tarek, no, that's terrible. No, it's not, because if it's your fault, then you're also the key to your salvation. Do you understand? As in, you don't have to seek an outside entity for your freedom. If you're responsible, you're responsible for both, right? It's like when I told you that story when the cockroaches were coming out of my sink and I said, this is your fault. And I said, but we don't use the past as a baton to beat ourselves to death with. I said, you know what? This is your fault, but what's to come, that's your fault too, right? If you give yourself the power to be the problem, you give yourself the power to be the solution. That was very well said. And it's very true, man. Most people, they forfeit blame, so therefore they forfeit power of resolve, of resolution of their very problem, their salvation. They give it to somebody else. Oh, I need to be saved by somebody else. That's not how it works. That's not how God works. That's not how your finances work. That's not how your body transformation works. You don't need to seek other people who just know more than you. And that's not to say you can't pay someone for their experience, and that's how you can condense decades of other people's trial and error into days. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you don't have to buy into snake oil motherfuckers who are trying to sell you a bill of goods to sell you on the idea from your playing on your unfortunate need to believe that there's a way to get out of the work. You know what I'm saying? At someday you have to bite the bullet. That's the phrase I was looking for earlier. You just have to do the fucking work, dude. It's boring. Nobody wants to do it. People want the highlight. They want the Lamborghini. They want the millions of views. They don't want to do the daily work. And so they'll never create anything because they'll never harness the power of compounding. Do you know what I'm saying? So that is all food for thought, and that was the end of it. I had more, but it was the next law. So I told you in a prior lecture, what I do is I give myself a little gift. I'll write the title and maybe a little note from the title of the chapter into my next thing. I didn't even do that. Discover each man's thumbscrew. This is law number 33. Little preview. Everyone has a weakness. Find your Mark's Achilles heel. But I hope that makes sense for law number 32. Play to people's fantasies. Why? Because it's the most profitable. Because it's romance, it's lies, it's bullshit, it's facade, it's veil. It's how you can get someone that hoe, you get more miles out of them, right? It's how you can manipulate all of your people that you're supposed to be overseeing and being their, honorable, integrable leader. No, you're a serpent snake motherfucker. So the way that you break the pattern, the loop of manipulation, he's doing everything that I talk about in this university, which is stand guard at the doorway of your mind. Open your eyes, challenge what you see, think for yourself. Right? Because what will happen? Freedom. What will happen? You give yourself the gift of your own salvation. You know what I'm saying? The gift of you being able to save yourself. Not looking outward. Not allocating blame to anyone. Not looking for another person, another institution to save you. Save yourself, man. Save yourself. Because I will tell you this, particularly if you're a man watching this, no one's coming to save you. No one. No one. And that's not to say that I don't consider that I was saved by God. I consider that God has been my saving grace in this life. I say that my whole heart on the platter. I've been this close to dying so many times from fucking drug overdoses, from, maybe my eyes will look this way and then I'll miss a car when I drive. Like those things have happened. And those are only things that I'm aware of. The countless times that I could have perished up until this point, but didn't, that is nothing short of God's grace. It's not what I'm saying in the slightest. I'm saying everyone in this life is looking to buy freedom, right? To get out of freedom. to get out of the work that's required for freedom. They're looking to get out of the work. They're looking for the quick fix. They're looking for the instant gratification. They're looking for the way to get out of them doing the inner work, right? Because they don't want to face the truth. They don't want to look at themselves in the fucking mirror and admit the life that I have is my fault. The state that I've lived in, say you're in depression for fucking 5 years. For you to admit and assume full responsibility is for you to admit that the last 5 years was a decision. The state that you chose to live in was a decision, and that it was your fault. Not what induced it, that's not what I'm saying, don't be fucking stupid. But choosing to live in it, choosing to exacerbate it, to prolong it, to perpetuate it for years, for a decade, yeah, that's the victim's motherfucking fault. But nobody wants to do that. Why? Because it's painful. It's very painful to admit it's my fault. But I will tell you this, and I'm happy to be the guy that's boring and doesn't sell you on the romance. As soon as you give people actual love, which is the truth, that's what love is, belief in truth. If you give people an actual gift, do them an actual service by telling them the truth, that's you give them the power to save their own life, to change their own life, to transform their own life, right? But you rob them of that beauty and that joy and that gift if you fucking lie to them or sell them on any kind of idea that they're a victim or that they're not going to be. So, with that, law number 32 done. I'll see you guys tomorrow.